Hey guys, so this is kind of a new thing I'm trying to see if it works out. I'm gonna do kind of like a podcast sort of thing here once in a while. I don't mind doing videos, but I thought that this would be interesting to try, and you can let me know what you think. So welcome to another week of Autism Talk with Alex. I am an autism mother. I have 2 little boys. Emmett is my oldest. He is 5 and he was diagnosed with autism at 3.5 years old. And my youngest, Samuel, is just 1. He'll actually be 1.5 years in May, which is kind of crazy. The second child definitely goes by a lot faster than the first. I certainly think it's because you're busier, so I'll go with that. So this week's topic I wanted to kind of talk about. Like I've said before, I'm not an expert. I am by no means a professional in any manner, but I am an autism mom, and I feel like I can talk about at least from knowledge from our experiences. It may not relate to you, it may or may not relate to you, but it's still something to kind of put out there and get the mind kind of turning for everybody. So this week I wanted to talk about, I was inspired by a very positive thing, so I wanted to talk about that. I received an inbox a few weeks ago inviting our family to an Easter egg hunt. And in Emmett's 5 years, we have received a lot of invitations, of course. And overall, they've been okay, but generally sometimes there is a bit of judgment in these sort of invites. This most recent one, though, there was not. It was probably the best, it was really the best invite we had ever received for any event. It was a dear friend of mine. I did not exactly, we didn't hang out every day or anything in school, but it was just a general hello. But we've kind of grown closer as we've gotten older, especially since we've become mums, and her little boy is on the spectrum as well. So we kind of click in these areas of, like I often say, autism parents, it's like, you get me, or you get this situation, you find that a lot, and it brings you home in this place, and it feels wonderful. So that's how I kind of feel about this person. She knows who she is if she's listening. And some people may too, because they have an annual Easter egg hunt and it's a thing. And we've never gotten to go for various reasons, but this year it just wasn't happening with things going on. We had some family stuff planned, so it just didn't work out. But I hope to go next year. So the invitation itself was pretty well telling us to come, pretty well summing up. To sum it up, it was to say that it was a very autism-friendly environment, and anybody who wasn't into it could just leave, and anything they could do to accommodate. It was pretty well the dream invitation of an autism parent to receive. You were pretty well, I even wrote back and said, I want to hug you right now, because that's exactly how it made me feel. We didn't feel segregated. We didn't feel like we did anything wrong or we do anything wrong, because we don't get to go all the time. And sometimes not at all, depending on the day and depending on Emmett. And it just really brought me home in that place of that. And what I mean by going home is a wonderful feeling for most people. And when it brings me to a feeling of home, like this is a good place, it's things like that. And in this very deep way, it definitely restores my faith in humanity just a little bit more. Especially in this whole autism world of parenting. Because I discuss a little bit in my book, Jump with Both Feet, about being invited, but they're like not necessarily being invited, but responses to birthday parties. And the part I discuss is not exactly the best. It was probably our worst experience we had in everything. But I wanted to kind of bring this episode forward in bringing something positive into it, because the positivity exists. The positivity of everything exists. You can have the hardest time and the hardest go and so many other things, but the positivity can live, and the silver linings exist no matter how big or small. You may think that they're small, but they're not. If you hear any noise in the background, I'm actually in my office. I have office time now that I try and get some writing done or try to get anything done, and my husband watches the two boys downstairs. God love him. And it's pretty good. I'm getting a little bit of more time to work on my second book. And like I talk about self-care, this is a part of my routine that helps with that. Just a little bit of time to do my creativity, express my thoughts, and get some work done, honestly. But the work is fun, which is nice. So there's this video that kind of went viral about a birthday invitation and saying that this mother pretty well pointed everybody out, and she did not specifically name names, but she said, like, my son has completely been taken out of this. He's not invited. He's the only kid in the class not to get invited. And we've been in similar scenarios. Emmett is not in daycare or in public school, but we have had scenarios where we have witnessed birthday parties happen even with family, and we have not been included. And this may come a case of we were invited at one point and we had to turn it down because, frankly, some parties, if it was generally the same thing of very loud music and things like that, Emmett wouldn't have been able to handle it. He would have melted down, and it just would have been a very unpleasant experience for him. And as he grows older, he does get better coping skills, and we work very hard on that. But in the times of these invites, it just wasn't working. Some people do understand this. Some people are really good. They get that it may not be his cup of tea at that moment. And then there are others that really are quite ignorant about it, and it's just life. Like I keep saying about this, and certain scenarios that we go through, we need to let it go. And it can be very hard to do that sometimes, but we can let it go. If our child is fine, then we can be fine too. Because Emmett really has no idea. He doesn't know how certain people respond. He doesn't look at them and realize that sometimes. He can certainly read the energy of people. If somebody does not want to be around him or somebody is very rude, he can tell. But as far as being invited or not being invited, he could care less either way. So that is a positive in my book sometimes, because when we experience the ignorance of not being invited to something, he's unaware at this present time about that. And I would rather save him from the hurt and kind of feeling left out. I'd rather that right now. Because in our own lives, if that happens, even as adults, you do feel hurt and you do feel very low, depending on who it is. And I don't want that for my kids. I don't want that for either son. So we really try to include who we can include, and sometimes you do go to a place where you just stop including people, and it's to do with ignorance and to do with just general unkindness, especially in this parenting autism world. And it's not this tragedy, it's not anything like that, it's just living life a little differently to work for your child. And sometimes people find that hard to get, and that's okay. But sometimes we need to step back and kind of reevaluate our circle. And that can be hard, because sometimes you're quite surprised by people that you know, how they respond to certain things or something they may say. And you don't expect it to be in a bad manner, but then it is. I'm here to say that you do what works for your child or children, because that's what we've eventually learned to do. We've eventually learned that extremely loud music parties and just different things like that, we know it's going to be loud enough that you can't even talk to each other. we're completely aware that that's not going to work for M. And that doesn't mean that's going to last forever. That means that's just going to last right now. And we can do right now. It's one day at a time. That is literally my life motto. And it's very common. I know a lot of people use it, but it really does mean a lot. And it really does mean that. So I want to thank this friend for the invitation to the egg hunt and for how kind it was, because it's very sad in this world today that reading something like that is not as common as you think. When I got it, it literally lit up my day. It put an extra bounce in my step. It really it lit up this part of my soul that just made me think, wow, these people exist. Thank you, God, these people exist, because it's just crazy how the world is today, I guess. And you really, really, really need to embrace the changes in your routine of your life. Sometimes we do need to change quite a lot for our children and to customize it for them. And we're not spoiling them, because there are a lot of people who have it in their mind that we are. Until our child has the coping skills or processing so many other different skills to build on, as they keep building, certain scenarios will change. I think in about 5 years, maybe even less, Emmett will be able to handle loud music at a party. And I could be wrong, but I'm going to hold on to my hope, because hope lives in all of us, and hope is all we have sometimes. Our hope and our faith need to keep us going. We can't get knocked down. And mind you, I've had a few days, even recently, where I've been pretty knocked down. I'm not going to lie about that. I go straight back to, I need to remind myself. I need to come and look at old videos and see where we started. See where we started and look at now and see the progress and realize how hard we've put in. A lot of hard work, especially Emmett, of course, the most. And I think that if we keep staying with the same balanced road of that, we will be okay and he will be okay. I don't mind customizing for him. I don't mind saying no to things because I know it's not going to work for him. So don't be afraid to say no sometimes. Don't be afraid to try something out new, see if it works. And don't be afraid to reevaluate your circle and see where you're at. Be with those who understand most, or at least try to understand most. And that's what I have to say about that. Because some people are still learning, and we do need to give some people some credit for trying to learn about this life and about our children. That is it for me this week. It's just kind of a little introduction. I want to see how this audio thing goes. I find it a little bit easier to do this audio thing right now. So I'm going to try this for a little while. I'm going to get some writing done. I just kind of wanted to touch on this because it was a really great moment for this autism mom this week. And I thank my dear friend for that. So have a great week. My contact stuff will be at the end, and I'll talk to you soon.